And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne.
To come to the reality of the divinity of His Majesty is a very personal manifestation. You still have to go into your own meditation, your own reasoning with someone, and come to the full reality of the divinity of His Majesty. Since the scriptures tell us that there are 3 major representations of God in time. This is the millennium that we are in now, and this is the last time that we are seeing a manifestation of God before the fulfillment of the prophecy. We have Adam, we have Jesus Christus, and we have His Imperial Majesty.
King of Kings. On the 2nd of November 1930, Rastafari is crowned the 225th Emperor of Ethiopia, Haile Selassie I, re-establishing the Solomonic dynasty. He is crowned King of Kings, conquering line of the tribe of Judah, elect of God. The ascendancy of Haile Selassie to the throne of Ethiopia marked the arrival of a day of redemption for black people, and the Rastafari movement was born. Queen Menon was also crowned Empress, establishing the principle of King Alpha and Queen Omega, the beginning and the end eternally consummated.
I think it's the first time you have a king and a queen crowned together, you know. You have kings crowned, like the typical monarchies will have a king, and then his wife is his wife, you know. We have a coronation where we have a king and a queen. That's why I say Rasta man have a special duty, you know. You cannot conceive of yourself as one without the other. A man, no man can be so bright as to tell me that he's a man and he don't even have any responsibility or relationship with a daughter somewhere, you know. That is when you come in your fullness. We would think of His Imperial Majesty as the highest divine order. So Queen Menon would have to be the mother of creation, and she would therefore have to be the beginning of how we behave. She could be a light for the woman.
Empress Menon traces her lineage back to the Queen Sheba, the Queen of Ethiopia, who journeyed to King Solomon, the keeper of the divine laws, the Ark of the Covenant. On her return to Ethiopia, she gave birth to Solomon's son, Menelik, who as a young man returned to Solomon's kingdom to claim the Ark of the Covenant. This was then established in Ethiopia at Aksum. Out of this tradition evolved the Ethiopian Orthodox Church.
The Ethiopian Orthodox Church is the first Christian manifestation coming out of Egypt. It's the first Christian acceptance of God and a man coming from God at this point in time. And the Ethiopian Orthodox Church teaches that man is black and that Jesus Christus is black. Ethiopia is the whole of Africa. And Ethiop, that the Bible would refer to, is a black man. At that time regarded as a Cushite, you know, from the land of Cush. And the Ethiopian have a special place in His Majesty's book, you know, in that we are the promised people. And even though He tells us many of those that are the promised people will come one day, after He chooses the ones that He wants, we still have to go down into the valley of Jehoshaphat for another weeding out, you know? So we know that our road is a long and troublesome trod, but it's a trod, there is a victory at in sight. when a woman put on her dread, it's with deep thought. A woman don't just dread. She don't just stop comb her hair. If you get up one day when you're 23 years old and say to yourself, well, I'm going to dread, that is a threat to society. It is a threat whether you are a working class woman or a middle class woman, and unfortunately still in the Caribbean here, we have to talk about class distinctions because they exist. It's a reality. Whether you be working class, middle class, upper class, whatever you want to call it, if a woman put on a dread, it means it is in defiance of what has been already ordained as beautiful, clean, upright, and it means that she has gone into this Rasta thing seriously.
We represent the kingdom of God. You know, we are children of the Most High, and we are a part of His kingdom, and this is what we do represent. Just as what the man represents, we represent a part of God's kingdom, just in a feminine structure.
For a long time, I've always been a very spiritual person. I'd always been going to a lot of churches from I'm very small, you know. And then I started to do a course at the School of Dance, which was a diploma course. And I remember them taking us out into the field, you know. We went to different, as they call it, subcultures. Eventually now they took us to some bingy brethren. And I remember when I went home now, afterwards I said, well, I wondered, you know, I said, how come the society is fighting these people and yet everything the brethren were saying was true, understand? And then after that I started to look in and, you know, look and keep reading and stuff, and then I met my children's father and he invited me to a meeting, and from the first day I stepped in I realized that yes, this is really where I'm supposed to be. That was about the late 78, early 79. But all I know is that it seems to me now that a lot of people then, a lot of young people then were starting to cite, you know, about that time.
Like many Rastafarians my generation, I wasn't born in a Rastafarian family. I was born in a Christian family. And we spent quite a bit of time in the church because my father is a preacher. I got basically my religious training from there. And when I was going to school, to high school, and I was living with my parents, I used to go to church and do all the things that a nice little girl is supposed to do. And I found that after I started going to university, I started questioning a number of things within the Christian church. And there was a period that I stopped going to church completely. After a number of years, one starts looking, you know, seeking that path that is going to provide the peace of mind and the contentment and the self-confidence that one needs really to go through life. And I found I gravitated more towards the Rastafarian, so I spent quite a bit of time around them, just sitting and listening and reasoning with them. And I was already familiar with the Bible, you know, but I started dealing with it on a different level. And then the natural progression took place.
Coming into Rastafari was, I would call it a terrible experience, you know. Because after getting certified from parents, you know, parents was the first fight I get, right? And you know, society in our world, especially growing up with parents who is well known, right? That the people in our world check for, you know what I mean? So, in that way, you know, I fight really get hotter and hotter because everywhere I go you can hear that is Mr. Sweeney's daughter and taking self and turn dirty rasta and many things, you know.
When I just started trotting within the Rastafari faith, I was a little bit rash in terms of hitting out at the system and so on. And I did create some problems for myself because of my rashness and tactlessness and all of that. And I think there was a period where I was a little bit irresponsible, you know, in that I didn't take work as seriously as I ought to have taken it. So you find that I was absent from work a couple of days for no reason and so on. But then after I started having children, I developed a more responsible attitude to what I was doing, and I saw that, well, there are some of the things that I was doing that I really had to question too, even as a young Rastafari.
My parents had a concept, and I think, you know, their kind of experience kind of made them come to that decision, you know, that Rasta was just whatless, you know, because they'd seen Rasta man, they'd said, you know, who did nothing more than beg. And I think they were very afraid for me, you know, and that was difficult for me as well because I didn't want to hurt my parents in any way at all, you know. And, you know, to explain to them, you know, why I was changing, I didn't do that either because I didn't know how to.
My cousin came down from Gloucester and he just got into Rastafari. He was 16. I was about 12 then, and he showed me little bits and pieces. So when I was about 14, I started to hear a bit more about Rasta. By the time I was 15, you know, I wanted to get into it. I said, definitely. But because I was at home, you know, I wouldn't locks out of respect to my mum. When I was 16, I left home and locks up.
I was there at that time living around Ladbroke Grove and Brixton, and that was where you really saw the first Rasta men and later on a couple Rasta women, you know. And but it's funny enough, it wasn't in England that I really see the philosophy or the lifestyle. It was really going out of England and coming forward and straightening it, you know?
It was love that drew me to them. I know a dreadlocks, the elderly man by the name of Guns, and just the way how he lives, you know, it really pulled me towards it, and I think it was right. I give thanks and praises to the Most High that he caught me at a young age. I was born in the ghetto, and I grew up like any youth now you could know in the ghetto. So those experiences teach me knowledge. As a young woman, as Rastafari, it was very tough in that time because for me, living up in this area, in the Kingston 6, there was no young woman who, you know, say Rastafari. It was big woman like my sister in there, but you never find youth in woman. They used to think I was mad, you know, or a lot of funny things about me, and therefore I didn't keep friends. It's only like the brethren them, you know, I would have as my friend, but you never have any sisters around that time. It's only like Rita Marley, and she was in town, so I would have to leave from here and go there and check her, you know. But it was very hard because it was few of us.
When I first came back, it was after about 14 years living away. So it was a whole heap of changes, you know. And also what made it especially so was because I'd never come back to Jamaica as a Rasta, and I didn't realize the whole vibration against Rastafari out here, you know? Thinking that this was the home of Rasta, I didn't realize that there was going to be so many problems being a Rasta. So it was a shock.
I went into this yard where Rastas live and rent a room there. It was interesting staying there because here comes Bingy Planner and Brother Marks teaching Amharic language every Wednesday evening. Well, my sister and I and baby father used to attend classes, you know, because we're interested in this African language because my baby father had a photo of His Majesty at home. He always talk about this great king and so on. And then we started to learn a little about the language, and then listening now to Bingy Planner and Brother Marks and the rest of Rasta talk about Africa and this King of Kings and Rasta. I mean, it's like I became convinced and converted, you know. So by 69, I was able to start shut up in this faith.
At the time here, it was Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, and Walter Rodney. He was in Jamaica at the time, and he really started the youth them, you know, because it was like violence that we were learning about Africa, and if we want to return to Africa, we'd have to kill off everybody, you know. But when Dr. Walter Rodney came down here in the 60s, he told us we must educate ourselves, we must have trade, and he opened more doors to us to see Africa on a higher level.
Many days when my grandfather used to say, but why you going into this thing? What you find in it? What? I said, but you are the root of it. You started it. Remember, you're a Marcus guy, remember, you know. He felt insulted, but then by really listening to him and my father, I really, gained something from what, because still both of them is saying something about Africa, and what each of them saying is something of high significance concerning Africa. I think that being a Garveyite, it really links one up within certain realms to become a Rasta, you know, and being a Rasta is a prophetical word.
The woman in the Rasta movement of the 30s, the early 30s, early 40s, you hardly saw her. When I was very young, you could never see a Rasta woman out on the street in locks. You never saw that. So you never even thought to yourself that there was in fact a Rasta woman. That kind of thought don't go through your head. It's just Rasta man and these horrible things that you see in front of everybody, afraid and screaming. A product of course, the 50s uprising and the fact that, you know, government said if you see one, kill the other one. So the Rasta woman has gone through, I think, from that time, a process of really just coming forward, just coming forward.
In the front of the wall. We suffer a lot down there with the Babylon and them, like the police and the soldiers, them and the Mr. Blindhago, all of them, man, that don't question, man. Burn down all the house, man. And fight us hard and come down, farm we down a shanty town, gun and bayonet for move we out. And we don't live nowhere, we don't have anything, and we don't have no food, and them treat us bad in here. suffer, them don't have no clothes, them don't have no food, and them don't live no convenience. We like bathroom and toilet, just like how you see there, just like a shanty same way, like how you see here. So we live because the government never provide anything for our Rasta. Government said them don't business with the anyway, it's 2 or 3 Rasta, put them in the police station and them treat us bad and them fight us hard. Them kill some of us, you know, kill some of the Rasta man them. And fight down our daughters and trim off all the wool and all those things, especially when you hear the politician time coming on. And you don't go vote for them, them fight us very hard, man. Them don't help us, them say we are not in their budget, and them don't sponsor us. It's only Jah Almighty, Jah Selassie, we sponsor I and I. So we're just sticking with faith and keep ourselves to ourselves. You understand me? But we go through a whole heap of tribulation, man.
It's the same fight Marcus Garvey would have, you know, where try and show black people say, you're black and you're African and what it means to you right inside of your heart. Not just the color of your skin or maybe the clothes you have on. So I feel that the society will give the woman, I really feel society give the woman a harder fight than the man.
Those days, I'd say, boys, was like a horrible tempest because everywhere you go, some people want to lift up the clothes to see if we're wearing underwear, and people threaten you could walk on the street, but sometimes we have to walk because we can't pay bus fare.
Black woman, ooh, black woman, like you struggled long. Your truck when it flies wrong back road, and when the heaviest load. To be someone to belong, but you're there in your mind under half furlong. Don't give up now, just pray for strength now. You are dedicate my song. La da 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 la da da. We are the set one thing.
Of course, the whole Rasta movement is a story of struggle and fight, just outright fighting against the odds. There's nothing laid back about the movement from the 30s through the 50s through the 60s. It's just a constant battle for existing. 1930s is what is regarded as the beginnings of Rastafari in Jamaica. This is not really correct, you know, but you know that Rastafari manifestation must have been here before that time. It couldn't just, what I think happened in the 30s is that it just really spring up to the fore, that become articulated. But as we're saying now, in the 30s, you have to put Rastafari woman in the perspective of Jamaica, whole of Jamaica runnings, right? And Jamaica at that time, if you remember, 1938 is the time of the uprisings. Now, there is a number of names that people forget, of women that fight strongly on behalf of the workers. You have people like Adina Earl, Una Marson, these people that either take to the books and write articles for the Gleaner, like Una Marston, or people like Earl who would fight and start a labor union, actually start a labor union. Amy Jakes Garvey, for example, she founded the UNIA here in Jamaica in 1914-15, as far back as then. So there are women who were in the forefront of the black redemption battle, so to speak. In 1938, when the brothers were fighting on the waterfront and the union strike, there were daughters there, you know, and those daughters were supportive of the man's struggle because it affected them as well. They'd feed them and make sure that things go on at home as usual. Now, what I'm really trying to say is that the Rasta woman is no different in this situation.
To come to that
Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of King David hath prevailed. On the 21st of April 1966, Emperor Haile Selassie visited Jamaica. The Rastafari elders who had recognized the significance of the Emperor's crowning were now able to confirm their beliefs.
When His Majesty is come, well, give thanks. I wake up before the man at 4 o'clock. And we gather together and we take away transportation and we reach right at the airport. Well, His Majesty was to appear 1 o'clock. So before him appear, I gather with the Haile man and when I bring a drum man and chanting and yelling for I until His Majesty come.
What the government at that time did was to remove all policemen from the crowd. They took them out of the crowd and removed them altogether. And everyone stayed exactly where they were. When the plane come down, when His Majesty come to the steps, nobody never run up and down like them mad. Everybody just in awe and, you know, overwhelmed at what was happening. So everything was orderly. And, you know, so I say His Majesty's visit was very important for the movement because it gave the movement the strength that it needed, the little push that it needed to see that what Rasta was talking about all this while was really true.
Well, for me, it wasn't an historical arrival. It was more a spiritual one, so I would talk for myself. It was when I saw His Majesty in 1966 when he came to Jamaica. Before I had no knowledge of him as God or King. So when he came to Jamaica, I saw him eye to eye, and some mystical thing happened between her and him, and it just came out of me that His Imperial Majesty is God, and my love, both of us love, you know, hook right there. It was that kind of a vibration.
A lot of leaders of the Rastafari movement at that time were able to meet him personally and speak with him. And it is this that we have in our history, you know, that we can know that what we believe in is really true and really correct.
I danced with His Majesty when he came to Jamaica, right? And because of that, I feel that it is necessary for me to dance as a Rasta woman.
With the migration of Caribbean people to Britain and the emergence of black communities, Rastafarian ideas soon became a part of the culture that began to develop. Young black people adopted the symbols and ideas of Rastafari as a part of a process of self-expression and pride in the midst of an alien society. By the 1970s, young black women had visibly become a part of the movement, wearing locks and chanting Rastafari militantly. Reggae music was to become an important means of popularizing the Rastafari doctrine. The players of instruments and singers like Judy Mowat became for many a source of information and inspiration.
To you I dedicate my song. Yeah. La da 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 la da da da. Better
realize that this work is for man and woman. And because I was given the gift of communicating through music, I couldn't keep silent. The first song I did was, I had wrote this song, "Why treat us inhuman just because we are a woman? We are not weak, we are strong. We have been held back for much too long from portraying our womanality. Mothers of creation, there ain't no equalization, but we have got God's given talent, just like you, so open the door and see us through." Some brothers did like it and some didn't like it, but that was like a voice for the sisters at that time. And I was able to go through with the support of my king man, because he saw what I was doing and he supported me immensely. And I was able to. It was not easy, because I was confronted at all time that women must not do this and women must not do that. But you have to know what you are sent to do, and you have to take a positive stance.
There's daughters out there doing things, you know. There's daughters out there because they've seen the need to progress. And even greater still, they've seen the importance of having children means to, you know, to provide a future, to provide security. You know, they've gotten up and they've decided to do something with their lives. Yeah, let's look through it.
What's that? Wasn't that last page? Yeah.
Hold on, let's see where it's going to fit in with this. Now, that's the front cover, like that. So that's going to be on that cover. Let me see the inside page. Okay, thank you. Bye. Well, we run a magazine. I wouldn't say community, I would say an international magazine, because our markets, you know, it goes internationally. That we set up to promote the image of Rastafari then through this magazine, you know. And also there's the Women's Theatre Group, which we run, theatre, drama, poetry, DJing, you know. We set that up now to fulfill our ambitions as Rasta woman, because, you know, all of we that's in the group, we love music, we love drama in some kind of way, and we want to put out a message, and we do that best through these things. The third thing now is the Didactic School of Wadada.
Infant Ethiopia, S for fruit, G for coffee, H for history.
Listen to your Benji Roots show on Traffic Jam Radio.
And the Sisters of Wadada, well, some of them anyway. All right, now, the first question I'll put to Sister Rashida is, what is the Wadada Didactic School all about? So if you just go into that, please. Okay, the school, Didactic School of Wadada, is a supplementary school, and we cater for children between the ages of 5 to 12 years. What are the aims and objectives of the school? One is that we aim to supplement the education that's taking place in state-run schools, like the English and the maths, and also to give to our children their own history and culture, to add to their, well, to secure them more, make them feel more secure. Right, and to do that, are there any special features in the program of the school? Yes, like I said, we do history and culture, black history and culture. We also do drama, you know, and singing. The youths can take part in singing, drumming, chanting, reading. Okay. Sister Benji, what part do you play?
My group that I look after is from 9 to 12-year-olds. And we also would like to
do more with the children. Say, for example, take them away for weekends, camping and things like that. Nature trail and also video. So we're hoping for better things to come, yeah.
Okay. A whole range of projects there.
I've always seen a different way of educating children. And for years I did try to organize something for Rasta youths or any other youths who would be interested. But again, finances got in the way and it just never ever came together. Finally, last year, I eventually capitulated and sent them to a government school. And after a certain amount of problems, because they're not willingly taking in Rasta children into the schools.
I always wanted to go to college from when I was 16. I haven't got any qualifications, so it's hard for me, so I built up a portfolio of artwork and used it to get into the London College of Fashion. I used to draw my models with locks, because in my other college it was a bit free. My teacher was different. You know, she used to say, you know, you might as well draw your models black if you're black, but it doesn't always work that way. A few people have said to me, oh, you're a Rasta, you shouldn't do fashion design, it's vanity. But, you know, you have to explain to them that all is vanity anyway, and everything around them, everything material has been designed. There are certain parts of Rastafari that I've adapted to suit myself. I don't cover my locks all the time. You know, I wear trousers sometimes, but, you know, it's not what you wear outside. Maybe it's not even the locks. It's just what's in your heart, what's inside of you.
There was no law that said that you should dress this way or you shouldn't dress this way. And as a woman, and after reading my Bible, and a woman of Africa, I know how to dress, I know what to wear. Whatever I wear must be representing me as the African woman. You know, I must be able to identify with whatever I wear.
One of the things with Rasta woman, she used to stay home, you know, like in the 60s, even in the 70s, she just used to stay home and look after children, and the man would go out and so. But the family business have been broken down a little. She comes out because the economic problem, she have to come out and work.
Thank you, Lord of Lords, the conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah, elect of himself, Jah, Rastafari. Thank you for this food and everything else. Thank you for my mother and my father and my brothers and my sisters, Jah, Rastafari. And please help the poor and the needy, and help everything to grow nice and strong. Jah, Rastafari, Selassie.
I work to fulfill my ambition and my aspiration, you know, and because, you know, I'm not a woman to stay at home and mind children. I love my children, and, you know, if it was necessary, I would certainly do that. But because I believe so much in progression for the Rastafari people, you know, because we need a lot and we have a long, long way to go. And the man them cannot do it on their own, no matter what they might think. Them can't do it alone, you know, because even the Emperor quoted in one of his speech, you know, what's the use of us educating the girls if all they're going to do is get married and tend house? Shouldn't they just go and get married and tend house instead of being educated? Because then all that education is wasted and they cannot contribute anything to their community.
There is a special feature out of the museum which is called the Bob Marley Museum reprint series, which I edit and which really features articles which have been written around Bob and around Marcus Garvey and around His Imperial Majesty. And what we do is reproduce these in a reprint series, which we hope to make really international and worldwide. And this is a very important feature of the museum because we want to keep the literate history alive as well as the oral tradition.
Ensure that our company provides. People have preconceived ideas of what Rastafarians are without really knowing or having interacted with any of them. Let's focus a bit on this one. Can you all read together what it says over here, please? Quality is my business. Quality is my business. And here? We have an artist who cannot spell so well. All the things that you do must aim at. I joined the Jamaican Bureau of Standards many years ago, and the vacancy they had opened at that time was one for the quality control officer. But after a while I realized that there wasn't much scope for growth in an organization like that. The fact that I was a Rastafarian and the way people felt about Rastafarian, especially in government organizations. So I decided to leave the organization after 4 years and launch out on my own.
My desire is not really to go out there because I know the treatment. Whether you have education, yes or no, right? You get discriminated, people have all quality things. So to be at peace with myself and my job, I prefer to stay within my gates, right? And I see we are in Jah, through such a works, Jah provide for I and I eat, live, and sleep. I read. Through I and I work, so I and I do what I and I own. Yet I still do underrate a daughter who have to go out there and do it. You see, probably that is the only way of achieving something.
It was difficult for a Rasta woman to be employed within the society. We were like castaways of the society. So we had to provide self-help projects where we could earn some money for ourselves to support ourselves and our children.
So Jah created man in his own image. In the image of Jah, he created him. Male and female, he created I and I.
From 61, I know my king man until now. From I and I come together as the two sons and daughters and here in Rastafari. And from me know is one king man alone. We is well married. In the sight of King Alpha and Queen Omega, we don't have to go to the past. Because when we live as man and woman, and king and queen in King Alpha's side, and it pleases Jah, we are welcome. Because we live forever and forever, which is one King Alpha and Queen Omega. We're well married.
The role of wife within Rastafari now is a very positive role, you know. It is, and it's the most vital role, you know, for the survival of Rastafari itself. You know, the woman, she must know her, when she knows her true worth and her true self, you know, she's a good wife. And a good wife, you know, it don't just mean to do everything, you know, he is told as it is told, because, you know, you should never do anything you cannot justify to yourself, and most of all to Jah.
It is not some European fiction that people get married, or that a man has responsibility for his children and his woman, you know. What might be European about it is the extent of how the person sees themselves as property of the other, along the British lines, in terms of the woman being totally the property of the man. They are just going back to the African tradition, because in fact, woman and man grow together as a natural manifestation of what God would like. The Rasta woman is in a unique position right now in the 80s. She has reached a stage now where she's able to manifest all those dreams that maybe she's been having all this while. That she would like to be able to say things, that she would like to be able to build, to see our schools come to fruition. The Rasta man has been more concerned with the spiritual, making sure that we understand the scriptures and the prophecy. The Rastafari woman, she's fulfilling the fulfillment of Queen Omega, because Empress Menen was a total person. And this is how I think a lot of Rasta women would like to see themselves. Probably one of the most important understanding is that the woman really comes to see Jah through Jah manifestation, Son of God, the man. It's only nowadays that you will hear man and man reasoning and suggesting that maybe a daughter can come to see the fullness of Jah in our own time and through our own strength.
I recognize and acknowledge the kings of kings. And it did not stop there. Acknowledging His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I, he has took me to a higher level where I acknowledge God in all things.
Whoa, Jah, whoa, Jah, let the sisters walk with thee. Whoa, Jah, oh, Jah, let us communicate with thee. In these times, this trouble we see, temptation, frustration, desolation is a haunting our key. Temptation, frustration, desolation is a haunting our key. Little children, little babies to feed. Oh, Jah, we're always in need. Show us the light to do everything that's right. Help us to fight where the brothers, they're out of sight. So, oh, Jah, let the sisters walk with thee. Jah, let us communicate with thee. In these times, this trouble we see, temptation, frustration, desolation is a haunting our key. Temptation, frustration.